Well, good day from the Disney Wonder. Today's a very exciting day because for dinner we're going to go all the way back aft on deck 10 to Palo because we're going to be cooking up something that they used to serve, one of the fan favorites. I personally haven't had it there, but I have had it on board the ship. Now, we're not using any Disney cookbook to make this because unfortunately it's not in there. What we're going to use is this special recipe card that we got from the Disney Wonder. They had an Anyone Can Cook series based off of Ratatouille, and this is the Wild Mushroom Risotto. Now, I've cooked about 3 or 4 things in my life from scratch. So if I do cook this and it turns out actually to be pretty good, then I guess it's true that anyone can cook. Now, I will say there's a lot of fancy cooking methods in here and ingredients that I don't even know if my grocery store will have. So we'll start off by, I'll go to the store, get the ingredients, and I'll meet you back in the kitchen. Well, that didn't work. Now, I was prepared for them to not have all the types of mushrooms. It does ask for 3 different types after all, and from what I hear, the porcini ones are difficult to find. They had the porcini, and they were $50 a pound for some reason. What they didn't have was the rice. Kinda need the rice to make the risotto. Now, I had to pull a fast one because I still wanted to do a Disney dish from the Disney Cruise Line. So we're gonna go down to the main deck to one of my other favorite restaurants, Triton, to go to my favorite dish that I had there, which is the Salmon Royale. Now, I found this recipe on Magical Recipes website. This is a dish that they have listed as being at the Royal Palace, which is on a different ship, but I know they have it in Tritons because here you'll see it and the picture on the official website, and I remember eating it there, and it was amazing. Due to the quick turnaround of me having to make this dish instead, I'm only making the salmon and the sauce with it. I'm not actually making every little piece of it. There's the truffled cauliflower puree and the sauteed Swiss chard. I'm not going to make those parts of it. I'm just going to make the baked salmon section and the beurre blanc to go on top. Let's get this amateur cooking started. Again, if this turns out pretty good, anyone can cook. I'm going to start with the beurre blanc just because it has more ingredients and it looks like it's going to take a lot longer, a lot more figuring out for me to do. A lot of basic stuff here though. We got butter, a shallot. Now, I did have to get a leek, and I was quite surprised to find out that that's what you get. I only need to use a very small portion of it, but now I have leeks for whenever I may need them in the future. I almost got away without substituting anything. However, you're supposed to use fish stock. I've got chicken stock. So we'll see. I'm a little iffy on how this beurre blanc's gonna turn out, but on the bright side, it's got 5 times the protein. That's good, right? Doesn't this kind of look like gusto? Before we start cooking the stuff, I have to chop up the celery a little bit, the shallot, chives, and the leek. Now, I'm actually gonna try and do half of what the recipe says. I had to go internet on how to prepare a leek because it's dirty, so you need to clean it thoroughly, cut off the green end and the other end, and you're just taking the middle part. See, I confused this for a green onion. I thought leeks and green onions were the same. Get all that dirt out. Cooking the beurre blanc, I want to get the salmon prepared as well. Salmon is a lot simpler. White pepper though, that also calls for white pepper. Not so sure what's special about it. And funny thing is, this smoked salmon that's paper thin costs like twice the price as regular salmon. Now, I do love some salmon, but I've never really had smoked salmon, and this doesn't look like a lot. Doesn't smell very good, I must say. And since I'm doing half the recipe, I guess it says to take half of this, and I gotta finally chop it up. I love salmon. This does not look appetizing, but we're gonna bake it, so should be all right. Should be. I think it this in half. It's probably half, right? Now it does say to finely chop this. I found this to work pretty well. Just looks kind of mushy though. Maybe it's good I'm not making the mushroom risotto. One of the steps was to flambe, just to set the pan on fire, and I probably would have burned down the whole place. Probably. Starting to look a little scary. I'm not a fan of the smell. Now, I'm no rocket surgeon, but that's probably finely chopped enough. Looks like we're just gonna slide it in a bowl here with horseradish, olive oil, salt, pepper, and panko. Go ahead and drop that panko in there. That's probably about right. Maybe? Nah, a little extra squirt. Trying to get the star pattern into this little thing is not fun. Well, that was the most difficult part so far. Look at all of that pepper that went to waste. Now we just gotta stir this mixture together until it is mixed. I must say, this is an interesting kind of salmon. I remember it being really delicious. I had no idea there was smoked salmon on it though. Then again, it gets cooked in with it. This is great. This is like the meat lovers version of fish. It's like fish on fish, fish lovers. All right, now it's starting to look like something. The rest for the salmon sounds pretty easy. We just sear it for 2 minutes on each side. Then we're gonna set it over here, let it cool down, and then put our panko smoked salmon and just kind of smear it over the top, and then bake it. And that's all that's left for that. Something that's kind of wild to me is I'm going half on all of the ingredients because I'm only making 2 pieces of fish and not the 4 that it's supposed to make. But even having everything, you still use a whole stick of butter on the sauce for the beurre blanc. I know it's a butter cream sauce because I actually went and looked it up. Didn't know what it meant. But still, just me sitting here eating this whole meal, if I do use all the sauce, I'm gonna be eating a whole stick of butter. Oil looks warm enough, so let's sear this salmon. I've never seared anything before. What exactly does that mean? What does it mean, Figment? Chef Figment? Now it says to only do this for about 2 minutes. These are very large pieces of salmon though. Look at that. This is a great time for me to realize that as much of a master chef as I am, I don't have tongs. So I'm gonna use this spatula thing to flip them over. There you go. Yeah, it's working out. Oh, no, other side. There we go. First try. Just gotta, just there we go. Flip, flip, flip. Alright, that's probably what seared looks like. Maybe. So we'll let it get to room temperature before I smear our topping. Now I was trying to figure out what went wrong here. I halved everything, and yet there's an excess of breadcrumbs. Well, you're supposed to get salmon fillets, and usually the fillets are a little wider on top, so you could fit more breadcrumbs. These ones are 6 ounces like it called for, but they're really thick. We got some extra breadcrumbs, we'll make it work and see what happens. It does look pretty good, so this is ready to go. I'm gonna set it aside until I'm probably halfway through the beurre blanc. So the first thing we're doing is throwing 2 tablespoons of butter over medium heat. Pre-sliced them here. They kind of made like a tower when I cut them. It was fun. They just started stacking up. So do that. Cool. So far, so good. First step of cooking, it is officially started. There's no turning back now. So we need to saute these. Just stir that up a bit. Alright, time for the part I'm skeptical about, the chicken stock. Alright, now that we've added the wine and the chicken stock, we let it reduce by 2/3, which I'm not sure if that means there's 2/3 left or 2/3 gone. I'm gonna go ahead and start baking the salmon, but what's really strange to me is the oven temperature required is 280 degrees. I've never even heard of that temperature on anything. Then again, I mostly eat frozen food, so that's probably why. There we go, 280. Bam. Professional chef. Is this reduced to 2/3? Who cares? Now we're going to add heavy cream and simmer until mixture is reduced by 1/3. More fractions? Looking at this chicken stock because I don't know if I should refrigerate it or how I preserve it, but I did notice the Shake Well Kitchen Basics is an all-natural product which may have naturally occurring protein deposits. I definitely didn't shake it. So if this beurre blanc is terrible, it's because of the chicken stock for 2 reasons. Alright, so the next step, I have this stack of butter here because it says whisk remaining butter into wine mixture, 1 piece at a time, allowing each piece to melt fully before adding the next one. Are you ready for that butter? Now that the beurre blanc is pretty much done, we need to strain it into a bowl. Luckily, I actually do have a sifter. So that's what we're left with. After putting it through the sifter, I shook it a lot back and forth. Just looks like butter and pieces of crab meat. Doesn't look like the picture, I'm not so sure about this. So the salmon just came out of the oven and it looks just like it did when it went in. I'm gonna kind of cut into it. No, maybe it's done. It might be alright. Now I just took a bite of the salmon and it doesn't feel like it's cooked the way it should be, which is strange because I have the recipe and I cooked it for the same time on the higher end of the cooking spectrum that they give you, and it still doesn't taste done. Maybe it's because of how thick the pieces are. So I'm going to put them in for 350 for 10 minutes and we'll see what happens. You can never really tell what the food's doing through these oven lights. Alright, and there we are. Salmon Royale from Tritons on the Disney Wonder. Now, I didn't put the beurre blanc on because it doesn't look right. So I'm going to try it without it first, and then I'll add it on and see what it tastes like after that. Now, I will say that it definitely wasn't done. It might be the cut of salmon that I got, but I had to bump up the heat to 350, and I put it in for like 10 minutes, didn't even do it. I did it for like 15 minutes. Just to kind of cook it the way it said, because it said the top should be golden brown, and it wasn't even like that at the 280 it said to do. It's pretty good. Now the real standout flavors here are the smoked salmon and the horseradish. Mainly the horseradish. That really kind of kicks through everything. It almost blinds out the flavor of the salmon, which is kind of weird. Now I'm going to try it with the scary beurre blanc sauce, which I still have in the bowl because it just looks off. So I'll scoop some of that up there. Just, I guess, pour it. Here we go with the sauce. That actually makes it a lot better. As weird and scary as that sauce looks, combined with the flavor of this salmon, it just really makes it a lot. It adds. Alright, I've gone full sauce. That was a lot of work. It better not have been for nothing, but it's actually really good with this type of salmon. I'll finish this up and let you know my thoughts at the end. Alright, thoughts on this salmon? It is actually very, very good. It tastes just like it did on the cruise ship, even with the chicken stock. Who would have thought? I will say though, it is very filling. I mean, you can see I'm pretty much there, and all I had was 2 pieces of salmon. Well, I guess 1.5. It is takes a lot of time to make. I was kind of worried about this one. Out of all the stuff I've ever cooked, this is the one I was most worried about because the beurre blanc looked really gross and not quite right. And the salmon wasn't cooking proper. I would recommend if you try and make this dish, you get more of like thinner pieces of salmon, maybe thinner, wider than what I have. So I had to improvise a little, although I think I cooked them just right. Bumping up the temperature to 350 was probably the right call. Would I make this again though? Honestly, probably not. Because it took a long time. It took 2.5, almost, yeah, probably like 2.5 hours to make all of this. Alright, but that's gonna do it for this experimentation Disney recipe. So if there's any Disney recipes that you're interested in or you'd like to see me try and make, let me know. I might be able to do it. I am by no means professional. This is all just experimental and a lot of fun to do. So let me know if you enjoy this type of video. But that is going to do it. Thank you all for watching. The caravan is moving on.